If you're looking to learn something new, check out the adult education classes at the Newberry Library. The classes cover a range of topics in art, history, and literature and are open to anyone who wants to learn. The fall term is just getting started with classes on a variety of subjects from Madrid to Istanbul to Victorian Britain to Kurt Vonnegut. Courses are available in person and online, led by passionate expert instructors. Classes at the Newberry this fall will give you a lot to think about. Learn more and register at newberry.org. Look, I'm an early riser. Maybe I'm playing pickleball or at the gym, or I'm strolling through the farmer's market taking some pictures. Luckily, Huel Black Edition makes it easy to fuel up. Spelled Huel, Huel's Black Edition powder has got the protein, vitamins, and minerals to help you feel full and ready for the day. Me, I like to go on and mix it into my morning smoothie. And even if the blender is too much for you, they just dropped a super greens drink in a can, the Huel Daily Greens Ready to Drink. Try Huel with 15% off for new customers today using our code Chicago at Huel.com/Chicago. Fuel your best performance with Huel today. Today on CityCast Chicago, protests continue outside suburban ICE facility. Chicago can do better than an AI mural. And is today the happiest day in Chicago sports this year? It's Tuesday, September 23rd. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. I'm joined this morning by executive producer Simone Alicea as we welcome in this fall day. Morning, Simone. How you feeling?
Good morning, Jacoby. I'm okay. I feel like now we've hit the point in the year where we can all officially agree it's fall. The equinox is happening, has happened. And so there's no more arguing. We're out of that point of September.
Yeah, I'll settle into these like kind of cooler 70, 60 days with my head held high. I hit summer as hard as I possibly could. I was outside a little bit more. I got to some parades and some street festivals. The one thing I did not do is I probably got in the water one time, and that includes pools, kayaks, river, lake.
So you missed that Chicago River swim on Sunday.
Yeah, I avoided the Chicago River swim on Sunday. But yeah, I probably got submerged in water one time all summer. I'm a little disappointed that I didn't get in the water nearly as much, but I think I made up for that with the amount of movies I saw, the amount of events I did in the park. I balanced it out by the end of it.
Hey, that's all you can ask for. You can't do everything every summer.
Coming into this week, protests continue outside of an ICE facility in Broadview. And Simone, these have been going on for at least the last 2 weeks. It'd been even more, but attention had really been focused on them because of Operation Midway Blitz and these increasingly aggressive immigration raids that are happening in and around Chicago. But I don't think we had yet seen a scene quite like Friday morning, where ICE agents' aggression, the state violence that was experienced by protesters, organizers, and journalists sort of hit another level.
Right. Friday morning, there have been protests outside this ICE facility the past couple of weeks pretty regularly because it is sort of a main site of these operations, right? Especially because there have been a lot of people who've been standing outside who have family members or loved ones who have been arrested, been detained, and they're trying to get information about what's happened to those people, right? So that's kind of the context that leads us into on Friday. You saw a larger group of protesters early in the morning. At one point, demonstrators were trying to sort of block a vehicle from coming out. We've seen that happen a couple times. And ICE agents responded by firing tear gas, by firing pepper bullets. So basically these bullets with another chemical agent, right? Trying to disperse these crowds. And, there were several people who were arrested, and there were a lot of people who reported, being knocked to the ground.
I saw a few of the videos coming out of that Friday morning scene, and there was a woman blocking the vehicle coming out, and an officer in full camo mask has a weapon on him, got the like pellet gun on him as well, and he openly just sort of two-hand shoves her to the ground with as much force as I can imagine he can muster, cussing her out the entire time. When she gets up, the officer next to him takes his mace out or his pepper spray. And Simone, I'm talking like less than a foot away from her face, just sprays her in the face. She clearly reacts to it. She's out of the way of the car at this point. It's sort of pulled out, and he comes back while she's on the ground and just directly to the eyes sprays her again before kind of retreating back behind the gates. I mean, they were face shots, neck shots, multiple shots to the body that they were taking kind of indiscriminately into the crowd, firing off. And they were doing this in front of, the lieutenant governor and activists and cameras and journalists. They did not give a damn.
This is unique for a few reasons. Number one, again, this is by far the most violent, sort of the most aggressive clash we've seen between demonstrators and ICE agents in Chicago. The other thing that was really notable about this is there were elected officials there. There were candidates for Congress who were there. You saw, as you said, Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton was out there. Evanston Mayor Daniel Biss, who's also running for Congress, we should say, was like out there kind of taking it to the face. Congressional candidate Kat Abu-Ghazaleh was out there, who also reported that she was thrown to the ground. And, there were older folks who were out there, a few, I think, at various points. Because then, right, there was this initial demonstration and response that happened in the morning. Things were kind of tense throughout that day and the afternoon, kind of all day. People were recovering, people trying to find out what happened to the folks who were arrested. Primarily, the demonstrators who were arrested by Homeland Security officials, not necessarily by local police. And so people trying to find out what happened to those people who were detained and arrested. And then there was a sort of another round in the evening. There was another planned demonstration. More people showed up. And then again, we saw chemical agents deployed and ICE sort of, you could see them. There were all these videos of like ICE agents up like on a roof with a non-lethal firearm firing those pepper balls, but still like as a sight of just like if
you've ever been hit with one of those or a paintball to the eye or something, like, yeah, non-lethal for sure, but like those things hurt and they add up over time.
And I'm just thinking like the visual of a person who appears to be in full military garb, right? Again, these are camo, you cannot see this person's face, just up on a roof with a gun, it's
some
wild.
Clearly unholstered
their sidearms. There were videos that showed that
actual guns.
There were videos that showed that as well. And it was, so yeah, very, very tense all throughout Friday. The folks who, I think there were about 10 people who were detained during Friday's protest, those folks were all released. It's unclear what, if any, charges there are. There was another protest on Sunday where there was another clash again, and at least a few people were arrested there. And I think I saw a report of at least one person who was facing, fines and the like for, disorderly conduct and things like that. And even as we're speaking on Monday morning, there were, a dozen or so folks who were still out there. Just a real show and demonstration against Operation Midway Blitz and just the Trump administration's increased attacks on Chicago. There was also a report over the weekend, that sort of that caused some confusion. The Huffington Post reported that ICE was planning to close this facility in response to the protests in Broadview. However, Homeland Security later denied that and said that that's not happening. We're not leaving. And, that certainly does not appear to be the case. And so that was not quite sure what happened there, but that also was causing some confusion this weekend.
As of now, I really don't know what can be done at the facility. There've sort of been these back and forth reports about calls for Governor Pritzker and his administration to try and step in some form or fashion and provide broader protections for the protesters. But these are federal agents. We already know no local law enforcement are going to step in between their operations, their aggression against protesters. And so in many ways, it feels like they really are in control of how this situation moves forward.
I mean, I do think that is what is significant about the fact that actual elected officials were out there, right? Like, I think that really says a lot about kind of what is going on right now, because there are folks who are putting their body on the line in addition to their vote, right? And like that's not nothing, uh, especially in a time where I think there are a lot of people across the country who are wondering, kind of like, what are you doing, elected official? Like, what are you actually doing here? And so I do think that that's really notable. I think another thing that is sort of notable about what's happening right now is a lot of the ICE activity, a lot of these operations are happening in the suburbs. That is where we are seeing, obviously we've been talking about on this show the fatal shooting of Silverio Villegas Gonzalez out in the burbs. There was that raid on the homes where at least one U.S. citizen was kind of rounded up and initially detained before being released, in addition to other arrests there. We keep going back to this conversation that we had a few weeks ago with Diego Morales of the Pilsen Rapid Response Network. And I truly, if you haven't listened to that episode, do it, because I do think it was sort of prescient, and there was a lot there that is really, really useful, both just on a practical matter, but also, his point was that like there has been so much organization in Chicago that in many ways it becomes easier for the feds to target the burbs because it's not as dense. It's a little more spread out. The networks are maybe not quite as robust as they are here in the city, and I think that's sort of proving those tactics are sort of proving themselves out.
Yeah, I got alerts over the weekend. I also am a professor at Elgin Community College, and so the entire Elgin community was on alert because at least 6 people were detained, including a father who had been in the country for the better part of 25 years, and was rounded up, I think, early Saturday morning, and his family was trying to find him. And so I know the entire Elgin community has been on high alert. As this directly impacts students who are commuting in and out of school, returning home from school to their parents or loved ones being missing, having been rounded up by ICE. And so, yeah, the growing operations out in the burbs, as you point, definitely don't want to forget that those are happening in many ways more aggressively than even what we're seeing in Chicago.
And I think it's worth pointing out too, because there are going to be some people who, you have the federal government who is out here trying to push this narrative that somehow that they are capturing criminals, right? That that's the worst of the worst, such and such. Not only is that sort of demonstrably not true by the numbers, I think it's also important to point out that even the people they are highlighting who maybe do have criminal histories, who do have past convictions, they're convictions. They're people who have been convicted and have served prison time or have whatever the sort of remedy was to that crime, right? We have a system for people who commit crimes. It's called the criminal legal system, and right, there's a whole process for it. And these deportation proceedings happen on top of that. And it is actually a completely separate civil process that's what immigration is, right? It's a civil violation of you're in a place that you're not supposed to be without the documents that you're supposed to have. That's fundamentally what we're talking about as far as the violation, quote unquote, goes, right? On top of that, when we're talking about this increasingly aggressive enforcement, not only is it aggressive in the sense of, right, you have armed people who are firing off tear gas at protesters, who are, there are videos of agents breaking windows, right? Not only are we talking physically aggressive, but the lack of transparency that is, again, for all its faults, fundamentally different from what is expected and what occurs with local police departments, and the Chicago Police Department included in that, right? Chicago Police Department, certainly not perfect when it comes to transparency. Certainly
notoriously imperfect.
Notoriously imperfect, one might even say. However, the difference, we don't even know truly how many people are being arrested, where they're being taken all the time. Family members can't find the people who are being detained. There's no guarantee that they have to wear body cam.
The facility they're being taken to may be isn't in any way set up to be a long-term housing solution, a realistic detention facility. So people are in there sleeping on floors, being held inside of office buildings.
There are lots of reports that the conditions in that facility are not conducive, as you say, to any kind of long-term detention. I really kind of can't emphasize enough. Like, I think on some level, it would be easy to see these headlines and see this story as like a police clash with protesters kind of story. We've seen a lot of those in Chicago. It could be really easy to ignore. But this is a really big deal. This is highly unusual and highly alarming. And I never want to like lose sight of that, because I think that's really important when we're talking about this agency. My other favorite fact about ICE is ICE was only created in 2003. It's not that old. It's barely old enough to drink.
It's being used as the strong arm of an authoritarian
federal government
is allowed to supersede local law enforcement in any way, allowed to detain individuals, house, transport people across state lines in an already
there are already so many
Exactly.
problems with the criminal legal system and its transparency and sort of its authority, and
it's an inherently inhumane system, and somehow this current regime and their use of ICE is like, hold my beer.
we haven't even gotten into sort of the public information marketing arm of the whole ordeal, where you've got, you know, people in their own networks, and you've got in front of cameras doing raids, and like department officials. You had Kristi Noem, Homeland Security Secretary, here in Chicagoland, out here leading a raid. That's nuts. I don't even know what to make of that. I don't have a point about that other than like, why? Why are it's unnecessary.
I got a feeling a lot of you out there got some excellent people skills. Maybe you worked in hospitality or customer service, or a job where you've had to listen, anticipate needs, and make somebody feel valued. Now, if that sounds like you, then you know how to put people first. And those are the same skills you need to become a successful realtor. Key part, successful. As a realtor, you wouldn't be starting from scratch. You'd be shifting your talents into a new role, one where you can set your own schedule, build new connections, and maybe even grow your earnings. If it sounds like real estate could be your next career move and you're like, but wait, where do I get started? We got you. Visit realtorsrealestateschool.com today to schedule your free career consultation. That's realtorsrealestateschool.com. Look, it's been a warm, mild September. Nobody, including myself, want to think about winter and the snow and the wind, but it is coming, my friends, and you're going to want to make sure your home is ready. So if you've been putting off replacing your old drafty windows and you can, now is the time to call Window Nation. And you really should do it now, because time is running out on this Window Nation sale. Until September 30th, that's next week, when you buy 2 windows, you're going to get 2 for free. So you can get top quality, energy efficient windows at a reasonable price. Plus, installation only takes a day or less, so they're in, out, and you can get back to your day with brand new windows on your home. Don't miss out. Schedule a fast, free estimate now with the pros at Window Nation. Call 866-90-NATION or head to windownation.com. Our friends over at Block Club published this story, which is interesting because Chicago murals get a lot of love. But this particular Chicago mural has been getting a lot of hate over the last couple of months. And it reminded me that I've actually seen this mural a few times on the highway. And I think the first time I saw it, I kind of side-eyed it and was like, and then just kind of kept it pushing. You're actually on the highway. You're not really thinking about it. I'm in the back of an Uber playing Sudoku. But apparently the hate for this one particular mural has gotten so loud on social media that they had to cover it. Simone, let's catch people up.
Yeah, they had to, when you say cover it, they had to write about the mural. The mural is still standing for now, and you can see it. We're talking about, and folks who drive on the Kennedy on the north side will know this very well, and it is it's like a Wintrust Bank billboard, and it kind of goes around, so you can see it both coming up and going into the city, going in and going out of the city. And basically what Wintrust does is they sort of open up that space to nonprofit groups and those, to kind of advertise their causes or whatever. The nonprofits are then responsible for whatever is put in that space. And right now, the nonprofit that is occupying that space is called Hope Ignites Chicago, which provides like educational and career support for young folks in the city. And the mural they have up there is computer generated. It is, according to many Instagram commenters, quote, AI slop. And I had the same experience you did, Jacoby, where I saw it and I was like, really? That's what we're going to put up? And then I was like, oh, okay, I guess like they can't all be good.
It's something about these AI murals. It's like every like animated person they crank out has that same look and texture to it that you see it and you're immediately like, I don't love that.
Yeah, it's that uncanny valley. And it's also wild because like it almost is in a style that like you would almost see in like a classroom. Like it kind of has that feel of like an instructional material illustration, but there's still, it's especially that large, like it's a huge, right? This is a massive, at that level, blown up at that level, it is. It's really unsettling. And there were lots of, local mural artists, of course, who were upset by this. And so we thought it might be a good time to revisit what I fear may become a recurring segment, which is real murals that are not AI generated that we like instead. Which
the fact that we had to do this with a book list.
We did this with books. Yeah, a book list when the Sun Times published that insert that had an AI generated book list, but with fake books, and we had to talk about real books. So now we're going to talk about real murals. Jacoby, what's a real mural or a spot or that you think folks should check out instead of the AI mural?
One that I've walked past more and more recently is Native American Lost in Chicago. I'm not sure if you've ever seen that. It's right on Wales, and it's like the entire side of a building.
Yes. Native American Lost in Chicago Dreaming by French artists.
Eller and Peter.
Yeah.
I have so many pictures of this mural. Oh, you know why I have so many pictures of this mural? Because it sits on the south side of the Market 96 dispensary. And it's quickly become my favorite dispensary in the South Loop. And so and I get on a divvy bike and I do the same thing. I like ride through the South Loop and I'm like, I feel so cool when I'm riding there smoke because I like ride through parking garages and one-way streets. It's like I feel like a bike messenger and like the opening, like Queen Latifah in that opening montage, Taxi Driver. And so every time I see this mural, I stop and I take a picture of it from a different angle. And the fact that it takes up the entire side of, I don't know, it looks like a 7-8 story building. Yeah, it's really cool. It just every time I see it, it pops out.
I like that one because it's like at the scale of kind of what we're talking about here. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I could point to a specific mural that I absolutely love. I feel like murals are, it's like I happen to be out and about and I'm like, oh man, what a cool piece of art. And then I don't think about it again. And then I'm like, oh man, that's such a cool piece of art. But places that I think are worth walking around to see some original Chicago art, I think the benches at Loyola Beach, around Loyola Beach and Loyola Park, right? Those are sort of community done murals. They do those. There's like a festival every year where the community paints that. Here in Uptown, sort of along Broadway under the train tracks, so you have a lot of sort of mini murals, both sort of along the pillars on the tracks, but also along like the walls of Aldi, and there's like another building over there. And then, of course, 18th Street in Pilsen. You can't talk about murals without talking about 18th Street in Pilsen and just the entire Pilsen neighborhood and the muralist movement there. So if you were looking for places to walk around and see some original artist created murals, those would be a few spots I'd put on my list.
Another one of my favorite, it's also extremely large, takes up the entire side of a building. And I have a great drone shot of it. It's Culture is Power. And it's on 79th and East End. And it's like right down from the Avalon Regal Theater, which has its own fire ass mural on the side of the building. But Max Sansing's Culture is Power. This mural and muralist popped up in the Ironheart series. And so big fan. I think the way the mural that was created in memorial of her father and best friend, those were sort of like Max Sansing like murals. But yeah, that's one of my favorite. I used to live like a few blocks away from it, so I would see it all the time.
So one specific one that I really like is called We Are Titans over up at the Chicago Math and Science Academy, way up in Rogers Park. This was done by students, which is wild because it looks so good. Jacoby, have you seen this one?
Mm-hmm.
It's a mostly Black and Hispanic school. And so you have, what appears to be like a young Hispanic woman in sort of almost like a sort of Aztec or kind of headdress. And then a young Black man in another sort of headpiece. It's like a bear. It's very, very cool looking. So I recommend that. And one place you can find that and some other murals that they sort of switch out what gets featured regularly is there's a City of Chicago mural registry, actually. And so that's one place where you can find a map of some murals and see some stuff that's featured. It's not as complete, I would say, as the Chicago Sun-Times murals and mosaics map, which also sorts stuff based on kind of like what is depicted, like sort of the category of the mural. Those are two maps you can use to find some other murals that are worth seeing.
I love the murals up and along the Metro Electric Line viaducts that run southeast through the city. There's some at 51st Street, 55th, some all the way, some viaducts further down on like in East Side and South Chicago, but like a good viaduct mural.
It's worth noting that the computer-generated image that is currently up at the Wintrust space on the Kennedy won't be there for long. There's another mural coming in a few weeks. That will be a mural for the Community Investment Corporation, which is like a nonprofit housing lender. That mural is going to be by Christian Roldan Aponte. And there's a design in that Block Club article, so you can get a sneak preview of what it's going to look like. And it does look much cooler, I have to say. So you can be on the lookout for that or take a look at some of these other murals that we've mentioned.
Learning a new language opens the door to new friends, new cultures, maybe even a whole new life. So why not start that journey today? I'm CityCast CEO David Plotz, and I'm learning Spanish with Babbel. Babbel's conversation-based technique quickly teaches you useful words and phrases about the things you actually talk about in the real world. I've been practicing my Spanish with Babbel's AI conversation partner. I can choose my conversation topic and have a real-time dialogue. It's great at helping me think on my feet, and it's improving my pronunciation. Also, it's really easy to do anytime on my phone using Babbel's excellent mobile app. It's just one of the many fantastic Babbel tools for learning. Plus, Babbel has a real-time feedback, progress trackers, and handy visualizations, all of which make it really easy to stay motivated to learn. I want you to learn another language. So CityCast is teaming up with Babbel to gift you 55% off subscriptions, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 55% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Babbel.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
This episode is brought to you by Mubi, a global streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema. On Mubi, stream beautiful hand-picked cinema anytime, anywhere. Right now, you can stream Vice is Broke, directed by author, producer, host, and chef Eddie Wong. The film follows the wild rise and fall of Vice from a scrappy Montreal alt-punk zine to a $5.7 billion media empire of the indie sleaze era, and ultimately its dramatic bankruptcy. It's a raw, unfiltered look at toxicity, capitalism, and what happens when the hype finally dies down. You can watch Vice is Broke and so much more exclusively on Mubi. And the best part, you can try it free for 30 days. Just head to Mubi.com/CityCast25. That's Mubi, MUBI.com/CityCast25. 25.
So, Jacoby, I have spent the last year mostly teasing you because it has been such a heartbreaking time in Chicago sports, with none of our teams really doing much by way of being successful. But you posited that today might be the happiest day in Chicago sports this year. Maybe not happy overall, but this year at least. Why is that?
And I'd argue we've probably had like some solid days throughout the summer where you got like a Sky, Fire, Stars, Sox, Cubs kind of win all happening right around each other or within days of each other. And so I know we've had some good days, but I'd argue coming off of this weekend, it's one of the happier days. And so here's my reason why. One, I think for most Chicago sports, we are in that sort of sweet spot between like blind optimism for and ridiculous amount of hopes for the forthcoming season of like the Hawks and the Bulls. I don't think anyone thinks either of them are going to do much, maybe make the playoffs, but like, hey, we get to hope. It's not here yet. And we're a little under the month.
It's not here yet. So it's all aspirational.
Exactly. The Stars, the Fire, they did not have great seasons, but, you know, the Fire have something to look forward to as their stadium continues to move forward. I know a lot of neighbors, whether it's the South Loop or Chinatown, are concerned about how fast that process is moving. But if you're a Fire fan looking for a permanent home, that's worthwhile news to you.
I just want to say the latest there that it was okayed by a city council panel. So it's by a committee. So it's not quite full approval, but it's moving.
It's moving through, and like the local alder supports it. Again, the plan is for the stadium to be fully funded by the owner. Again, I think there should be a lot more scrutiny there, but if you're just a Fire fan and looking for a bright spot, you have that. The Stars announced that they won't be playing at SeatGeek next year. Instead, they're going to be moving up in Evanston, playing at Northwestern University right off of the lake. And so they're hoping that a little change of scenery maybe brings maybe some brighter days forward. Right now, the season has been a bit of a disappointment. And then on the other end, like you got the Sox, who are right now with 6 games left to go, hoping not to lose 100 games for the third year in a row. But hey, we don't have to watch them lose those games at home because they don't have any more home games left.
Well, hey, remember, was it last year when they sold out that game? Like there were so many people
because people really wanted to see them lose. And I appreciate that we're not in that territory this year. They're not the worst team in baseball. They do have the second worst record. They are probably going to lose 100 games for the third year in a row. But some of the young guys looked good in the back half of the year. The offense started to pick up post All-Star game. It trickled back off, but you know, having lived through last year where you were so bad that most of your joy comes from the Sox's X account, like memeing, finding a new funny way to talk about their losses, and fans and bandwagoners and people who just wanted to have joy in their misery sort of showing up to watch them lose. I appreciate that it's going out with a lot more of a whisper this year. And that's probably because up on the north side, the Cubs are going to the playoffs for the first time in 5 years.
It was so funny, Jacoby, because on Instagram, you can follow us Instagram and TikTok at CityCast Chicago. You did a video where you were recapping the news, and one of the items that you mentioned is the fact that Cubs are heading to the playoffs for the first time in 5 years. And our podcast listeners know that you are a lifelong Sox fan and it's not your team. And so there were a few comments that on that video that were like, really could muster up a little more enthusiasm for the Cubs. And I was like, see, I feel like these are not people who listen to the show and know the context of your lack of enthusiasm.
I think the fact that I even mentioned it, bring it up, took time in that 60 seconds to even begrudgingly talk about it is the sort of one for all Chicago mentality of like, yes, any good piece of success, we should all enjoy it. But no, I sat with a scowl on my face when they won the World Series almost a decade ago now. And so I'll continue to approach that way. But again, I do recognize that for some people who woke up this week with the quarterback who threw for 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, and played the first professional game without taking a sack, that when you pair that with the Cubs going to the playoffs, that this is likely a happy day because, one, you are looking at the potential of having truly a franchise quarterback. And I know if you listen back the first 2 weeks, I was like,
how many times have we said potential franchise quarterback on this show, do you think, in the past 4.5 years?
To be honest, not that many. Because I don't think anybody ever thought Justin Fields was going to be a franchise quarterback, despite people wanting him to get more support.
I think the audio would show something different, Jacoby. I think the audio would prove you wrong on that.
The Bears getting a win at home, the Cubs going to the playoffs, and the sort of misery of some terrible seasons ending as the false hope of some seasons beginning in a few weeks. I'd argue this is one of the happier days in 2025. Again, I could be wrong there. I'm sure we had some.
There's still some 2025 left.
Maybe at the end of the day, it's all hyperbole, and it's not that happy of a day. But I will say personally, I woke up with a bit of a smile on my face, knowing that my Sox home suffering has met its watch for the year, and I don't have to think about them losing at home again until April. The fact that the Bears have a win, and I will give it to you. I will give it to you, Cubs fans. I can't wait to watch you lose in the first round of the playoffs. I can't wait.
Or they might win, and it'll be fun. And, I'll avoid Wrigleyville as more than I usually do. It'll be great.
Before we get out of here, I want to give a huge thank you to executive producer Simone Alicea.
Hey, thanks, Jacoby.
And a heads up, y'all, tomorrow is the start of our fall membership campaign. That's when we spend a few days asking you to become a CityCast Chicago neighbor to help support the podcast and the newsletter well into the future. And you're going to hear a lot about it, my friends. But if you want to get a head start, you become a member today at membership.citycast.fm. If you are already a member, first of all, thank you. We see you. I appreciate you. We can't do this without your support. I ain't gonna be mad if you press that skip button a couple of times, but I'm just saying, you might miss some fun stuff. So I know some of y'all be sitting there like, I'm already a neighbor. Do I gotta listen to this? Yes. Remember, there's new people joining this neighborhood every single day, joining this community every single day, and so we want to welcome them. All right. So help us do that. Some good news. We got some great free music events happening in and around the city this week, including the Future Folk Festival at Hamilton Park in Inglewood tomorrow. Later this week, you got the Uptown Rhythm Festival, Hyde Park Jazz Festival, and Musica Sama Sama Filipino Festival in Albany Park. You can learn more about all of these events and more by heading over to chicago.citycast.fm and checking out our events calendar. We're going to be back bright and early tomorrow. We'll talk to you then. Peace.